You're now watching Sports Bettor's Paradise on the Bet Rivers Network.
All right, Jimmy Ott, Paul Stone here talking about the bowl games. The back into the bowl games, the last four. These are after the quarterfinal games, after New Year's. Let's start in the SEC. Ole Miss is at 17.5 and 52 right now at Bet Rivers. Both teams, Ole Miss and Duke, 9 and 3, and I guess that's where the comparisons start with this club. Ole Miss, who has been more vocal than Lane Kiffin? Now, a lot of things, especially on Twitter, we kind of dismiss or get a chuckle and just kind of find it as trivial. But man, being left out of the tournament, and let's face it, Ole Miss, by most of our power ratings, had a stronger team this year. Would have been favored over multiple teams in this field of 12 this year. And then the disappointing performance by some of the teams that were kind of on the edge, well, it's just led to a lot of conversation. Let's face it, you cannot lose to Kentucky at home, who finished 1-7 in the conference, and still look at. And why did they lose to Kentucky? Because they're an immature program. Because they had 3 third-down stops in the first half where they had dead ball penalties that extended drives. Instead of getting the ball in better field position, more possessions, no, they just extended the game and kept Kentucky hanging around. They convert a 4th down play, and they get burned. So. And then, of course, they lose to Florida on the road. Florida, that one was not as disappointing, especially the way Lagway and the Gators were playing late in the year. But my goodness, I mean, you need to take care of business once you put yourself in a hole by losing to Kentucky. The Duke Blue Devils, a 9-3 season, and Manny Diaz, I mean, that's a heck of a year, way exceeding their win total back in the preseason when we were talking those back in the summer. But it was a lot of them was fortunate, to say the least. They had things break their way, and now their quarterback is into the transfer portal. They got a really good one coming, and in Mensa, coming over from Tulane, reported $9 million over 2 years. Not sure if he's worth that, but he's a really good quarterback, and they kind of nudged the Malik out the door. But Ole Miss is singing, can't you see it, where the Twitter sphere, the X sphere drives this Lane Kiffin, that some of the things you're looking for, sort of different angles to motivate your team. It's all about who's motivated and who's not. Where you look at SMU and they just crapped on themselves in Happy Valley against Penn State, where the quarterback played so poorly. Can't you see that he puts that score right there and says, SMU beat Duke by 1, we beat them by 50. Just some of the things that motivate Lane Kiffin are just a little bit different. I laugh at Lane because he kills the transfer portal a lot. The transfer portal is the reason that the longtime runts have had success and can play with the nation's best in the modern era of college football. But I'm going to lay it here. Jackson Dart coming back, a lot of players, Nolan coming back. So when your more talented players are playing, it's easier for the mid-level players to play. Duke, not so much the case. Ole Miss, strange motivation, odd, maybe when they could be disappointed, and a ton of players opted out. I think they're all in this one. It's a big number, but I'm going to lay the 17.5, Paul, with the Rebels against the Blue Devils.
Yeah, Ole Miss, like you said, Jackson Dart's indicated he will play, and that's a big, obviously, plus for the Rebels. You know, Duke doesn't appear like it's going to have a whole lot of absences, but the ones that it's going to have are significant. You mentioned Malik Murphy. He hit the transfer portal after just 1 season, and also their top running back, Star Thomas, had almost 900 yards rushing this year. He is also in the portal. So you got 2 of the best players on offense for Duke that won't be playing. Henry Bellin IV, who appeared actually through 1 pass this year and had 5 carries for Duke as the 3rd-team quarterback. He's expected to get the start for the Blue Devils. You know, from my perspective, you have to expect, like you said, first of all, backtracking, Lane Kiffin, he'll probably want to make his points with exclamation points. And, that's part of it here. Like you said, it's motivation, and you get it wherever you can when you're a college football coach. So I think that'll be an easy sell for Coach Kiffin. I expect Ole Miss, even though Duke plays some pretty good defense, I expect Ole Miss is going to score some points. But you have to ask the question, where are Duke's points going to come from? I don't know the Blue Devils are going to score a whole lot. Don't have the exact point spread record, but historically over the last decade or so, these bowl favorites of 14 points or more have done pretty well. So even though it's a little bit scary laying 17.5, I'm not on this game yet, but I certainly can see where you're coming from. The probability and the thought that Ole Miss is going to take care of Duke in easy fashion.
Earn a chance at $10,000 in bonus credits with the Bet Rivers Prop Packs. Place NBA same-game parlays to collect player card prop packs and earn rewards. You win based on how your player performs. Log into BetRivers.com or the Bet Rivers app to place your bet and get your pack. Let's get to one in your state, Paul. Let's look at Texas State at 7-5, 13.5. 61.5. This line's moving a little bit over North Texas, who is 6-6 on the year. And you're looking at North Texas, you're looking at a lot of opt-outs, including their quarterback. And what we've seen in these bowl games, when you got to go to a young, inexperienced, usually freshman quarterback, man, Tulane, to name one, really had their problems. Cal had their problems going down to, a freshman quarterback. It was really, really ugly. And looking at some of these inexperienced down-the-line quarterbacks in some of the bowl games. Same situation here. Texas State, you're looking at the total at 61.5.
Yeah, Jimmy, North Texas, they've got about a dozen players in the portal, and that number includes 4 offensive starters, the most notable of which is Chandler Morris, who's already transferred to Virginia. Chandler Morris threw for over 3,700 yards this year, so he obviously is the catalyst for that Mean Green offense. So you've got a guy, the situation where you've got a true freshman in Drew Mestamaker, who appeared in 4 games this year. He threw 5 passes. He had 5 carries. So he has virtually no experience, certainly no meaningful game experience. And just the fact that you're going from Chandler Morris, a grizzled veteran who's played a lot of college football, to a true freshman who this year threw 5 passes and carried it 5 times in mop-up duty, a tremendous drop-off there. And not only that, but for North Texas also on offense, you've got their top receiver, D.T. Sheffield, 66 catches for 822 yards. He's off to Rutgers. They're starting tight end Oscar Hammond. He's transferred out of the program. He's going to Oregon State. And they also have lost their center. You never want to lose your center, especially with a true freshman quarterback. And their center, Tyler Mercer, has moved on to Kansas. So you got a lot of players on offense at key positions who are not going to be playing in this game for the Mean Green. One report that I've read indicates that they'll be starting true freshmen at quarterback, one of the wide receiver positions, tight end, and left tackle. So that's some tough stuff there. Meanwhile, Texas State, they've not been quite as impacted by the portal, won't be without as many key players, but one of the key players they will be without is running back Ismail Mahdi. This is a guy who's rushed for a total of over 2,300 yards over the course of the last 2 seasons. So he's provided a lot of the offense there for Coach G.J. Kinney and the Bobcats. He is headed to Arizona. Indications are he will not play in the bowl game. So that's some offense there that will be missing for Texas State. This total on December 9th, when these bowl numbers came out, market wide, opened at 68.5. Wow. So it's been nothing but a one-way, train of under money down to 61.5, a 7-point move. But, I still like the under. I still think points, even though North Texas is all offense, not much defense. I still like the under here. Another little tidbit, North Texas, their games average a total of 150 plays a game on offense. So between their offensive plays, their opponent's offensive plays, 150 plays, which is really a lot. I'm not sure anybody averages more total plays than that. But I've got to think with a true freshman quarterback, they're going to slow things down. They're going to slow the pace down to try to accommodate a totally green quarterback with hardly any game experience. So I think we're going to see fewer plays than in a typical North Texas game this year. So add it all up, I'm on the under, like this game to go under 61.5.
All right, players can play same-game parlays on college football and NFL games to earn squares. Our exclusive Square game offers additional chances at profit boosts, bonus bets, and many $10,000 jackpots. Visit BetRivers.com or the BetRivers app for more details. Let's move on to another bowl game. It's a Big Ten versus ACC matchup here, and the Minnesota Golden Gophers at 7-5, 7.5 and 43 over the Virginia Tech Hokies, who finished the season at 6-6. And numerous opt-outs, including their quarterback Drones, who was the star of their bowl game last year against Tulane. But how about the Minnesota? First of all, in the season, they finished 5 of their last 7. They won 5 of their last 7. The only 2 they lost was a 1-point loss. A 1-score loss at Rutgers and a 1-point loss against Penn State. So they come in on the roll. And when we're trying to find some sort of angles, motivation, we kind of throw away sort of a lot of the stats over the course of the season because, just that usually the team that's more excited to be there is more motivated, trying to find that out. Well, nobody has been better in these non-traditional bowls, sort of these non-BCS bowls, non-playoff games, or non-New Year's Day bowls than P.J. Fleck. Minnesota as a whole has won their last 7 bowl games. Fleck is 5 for 5 his last bowl games. Now 6-2 overall when he goes back to his games at the MAC, but he's got the recipe. There's no doubt about it, man. He has the recipe, and I love the way this Minnesota team is an honest line at 7.5. Now, if these two teams were playing where everyone is at full strength in the middle of the season, it would be less than a touchdown. There's no doubt about that on the neutral field, maybe 3.5 or so. But you just cannot deny the history and the recipe that he has, where so many coaches are trying to find something to motivate their team. How about just motivate to play? Nobody does it better than P.J. Fleck. There's a saying in Minneapolis, St. Paul, we don't lose bowl games. So I hope they don't lose one here as well. I'm taking the Gophers minus the 7.5, where Fleck seems to have that magical bowl recipe.
Yeah, absolutely, Jimmy. And to piggyback off one of the points you made, this game played with both teams having their full complement of players, say just, a month ago in late November. It's a totally different handicap. But, again, it's informational when you get to the bowl season, who's in and who's out, who's playing and who's not. And Virginia Tech certainly has just players all over their roster who have either opted out to prepare for the NFL draft or in the transfer portal. They've got a pair of multi-year starting offensive line starters. Their center, Braylon Moore, their left tackle, Xavier Chaplin. They're both headed to SEC schools through the portal. Got a couple of starters in their secondary who have gone portaling. A number of players, 5, I believe, have opted out to prepare for the NFL draft, and that might even grow as we get closer to the game. So further opt-outs for Virginia Tech are certainly possible. Their top 2 quarterbacks, Kyron Drones and Colin Schlee, they finished the regular season injured, did not play in the regular season finale, didn't play in the last couple of games for the most part. Drones is reportedly out for the bowl. Schlee sounds kind of questionable, but if Schlee can't go, it's going to be redshirt freshman Pop Watson at quarterback for Virginia Tech, so they would be down to their 3rd-string quarterback. Minnesota is going to have some players that are missing based on the transfer portal, but not nearly the number that Virginia Tech will, only a handful. So hadn't played it yet, but with you here on Minnesota, they're the team that's got more hands on deck. I think this game means more to them. I think they'll have more collective team psyche, as I like to say. So certainly has to be Minnesota or nothing, based primarily on Virginia Tech's roster that they'll bring to this bowl game.
All right, let's close out the bowl season with the last one here. Of course, we'll talk about the semifinals and finals for the national championship game in the college football playoff. But we're looking at Buffalo at 8-4 this year, 2.5 and 50.5 over Liberty, who finished 8-3. You talk about Liberty, you talk about, Coach Prime got his quarterback for next year. He was wondering if he would leave Boulder, Colorado after Shedeur Sanders and I guess sort of his adopted son, Travis Hunter, were on their way. Not the case. He's got his other quarterback, and that's Salter, who comes in for Liberty. Funny about Salter, though, he did not have his typical year this year. He was much better. This is a team that Liberty was just heavily favored in all of their games, and losing one where they were 4-touchdown favorites against Kennesaw State early in the season. But he is, when you watch Liberty play, and it's a lot of him either as a dual threat or handed off to his running back, Cooley, who is also opted out. He's prepared for the NFL draft. Everything that Liberty runs in their offense is through those two guys. So you take those two away, and, man, you just wonder about it, because those two guys were the reason, Paul, that we thought they might be able to go 12-0, 11-0, 12-0 this year. But It's just the supporting cast around them were just not as good as they were a year ago. Buffalo, 2.5, 50.5. You're looking at the Bulls in this one against another depleted roster entering these bowl games.
Yeah, kind of same old song here, Jimmy. But back on December 9th, again, when these numbers were posted market-wide, Liberty actually opened as a 2.5-point favorite, and now the tables have turned. Buffalo minus 2.5. But when Liberty was favored, that was before, as you mentioned, quarterback Caden Salter and 3 starting offensive linemen entered the transfer portal. And then you've got their running back, Quentin Cooley, who rushed for over 1,250 yards this year, who has opted out to prepare for the NFL draft. And Caden Salter, he's a talented guy, actually from outside of Dallas in Cedar Hill High School, fairly highly recruited, signed with Tennessee out of high school. Things didn't work out there in Knoxville, but he's got some talent. And as you mentioned, he and Cooley are kind of the two that drive that offensive engine for the Flames, and their absence will be felt immensely by Liberty. And they really, even with those two guys, when Cooley and Salter were playing, as you mentioned, they struggled the second half of the season. They lost to Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, and Sam Houston in their final 6 regular season games, and had to go to overtime to beat UMass on the road. So they were not playing good football. Also, as you mentioned, the fact that last year, they qualified for a New Year's Six Bowl, did get, throttled by Oregon, but they were there. And certainly coming into this season, their expectations and their primary goal was to go 12-0 in the regular season, win the conference championship game, go 13-0. It would be against a really easy schedule. But make the committee think long and hard about their inclusion in the 12-team playoffs. So I kind of think for this team, it was pretty much playoffs or bust. And now they've got to play the Buffalo Bulls in a meaningless, to them, I think, from their perspective, bowl game played after New Year's. They've fallen well short of their regular season goals. They have several players who are critical now, no longer on the roster. So I think it kind of speaks to the fact that one would not expect Liberty to have a supreme effort in this game, and that's probably putting it mildly. So I think Buffalo's going to be more invested, and this is a minor point, but last year these teams played in non-conference in September. Liberty won that game 55-27. Some of these Buffalo players were certainly on that roster, so that gives them a little extra motivation, I believe. Again, we're on the wrong side of a 5-point line move, but it crosses 0, so that's not nearly as significant as most 5-point line moves. I think Buffalo's going to win this game. They just need to win by a field goal or more for us to get the money. I think Buffalo's going to do that. I like the Bulls minus 2.5 over Liberty.
Here's what Liberty's missing exactly. Salter with 1886 passing and 15 TDs. Cooley, 1254 rushing and 13 TDs. And Salter with 579 more and 7 TDs. That's 37-19 of the roughly 4,800 yards. We're looking at, 75, 80% of the production and most of the touchdowns that were scored this year. So, they are losing a lot. 37-19 and 35 TDs gone in this game for the Liberty Flames. All right, we do it. We can all the way through the end of it. When we come back, we'll look at the semifinals of the championship game in the college football playoff. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott on the Sports Bettor's Paradise on the Bet Rivers Network.